correct pricing.
With property.
Yeah. And it sounds counterintuitive to success, but most of the time, if you're working with a seller lead that you have not worked with in the past, this is your first time in the home, is when you give your listing presentation. So as you'll, if you've taken my CMA class, you know this already. When I go for a rubber bands in my mouth, pinch my mouth when I speak, I'm like, is that a grimace because my lips stuck on it or because I'm in pain? I'm not sure anymore. What was I saying? So yeah, so if you take a CMA class, when you do a CMA for a seller, if you haven't seen the property, you should have a pretty broad range. Okay, I never have a price range in my CMA in a listing presentation unless I've already seen the property. And that is because I have shot myself in the foot twice and I'll never do it again. It's been a good 5 years since I did that. But you know, I have given an extreme range, low to high end, and then walked into basically a hoarder house where I'm like, oh no, even my low range is at least 100,000 overpriced. I don't want them to see this, but now I have 3 copies of my listing presentation with the CMA in there that doesn't apply. And I'm fighting an uphill battle against myself. And that conversation is already a delicate one. How am I going to be like, you're disgusting human beings and you belong on hoarders, so therefore you price 100,000 under? I cannot say that, right? I can show photos, but people who live in that kind of condition, they are in denial of their living conditions, right? And sellers are already most of the time in denial of the value of their home. Even my father, a real estate professional, thinks his house is worth, 15–20% more than it is. And I'm like, Dad, come on. Let's look at these numbers and let's look at the photos. Let's be real here. Please don't be my typical seller. So, second. So late and behind all day. So listing presentation. We're going to talk today about what goes into a listing presentation and why. We're going to talk about how to conduct ourselves before, during, and after a listing presentation. And we're going to briefly look at the listing presentation template and KW command. All right. So listing presentation. It is more than just our actual printed presentation, right? What goes into that? What factors do we need to think about when we're putting them together? So let's first talk about what goes into it always. The most important part, CMA, but that's a separate class. So we've already covered this round of the curriculum. So if you haven't watched that or taken that, please watch that on YouTube. There's no chance that you can perform a listing presentation without an accurate CMA. Okay. But beyond the CMA, what goes into a listing presentation? If you took my class yesterday, you should know the fixtures that never change and go into every presentation. What are they? You guys tired today?
Bio, reviews, references.
Reviews, references, if you have them.
Professional.
Headshot, professional headshot. That's right. You may have a list of questions. It depends on your research. In addition to CMA, what do I say I like to have? Because only sold properties should ever be in a CMA. But remember, active properties, pending properties, they are going to likely have impact on any listing I take before I end up in escrow and certainly before I close. Right? So in addition to CMA, what else do I bring with me? Active and pending listings. They don't go into my CMA because list price is not indicative of sale price, right? But I bring that with me. Okay. I may, depending upon my price point, be including copies of past marketing materials I've used. I may be altering my reference list to include sellers the general area that I'm going for that listing appointment in. And I don't know if this is, PC or not, but when I meet with sellers, if I am meeting a gay couple, I will make sure my reference list includes gay couple I worked with, right? If I'm working with, and I've been in the business for a long time, so I'm lucky to have these resources. And it's okay if you don't yet. If you're in a mentorship program, you can leverage your mentors, past clients. But I try to find people, same age range, something in common, something that I think by looking at the name, these potential clients might have in common, right? I'm not profiling. I always put a big list together, including, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people. But if I feel like there's someone that might have something a little bit more in common, I do encourage my potential seller to reach out to these people. And, if they can have a discussion with someone that they feel might have similar needs to them, I want to include those people, right? And again, I'm just telling you about my experience, but I had a listing appointment with a Persian couple, and they're like, but you don't know the Persian community. And I'm like, look at my reference list. Yes, I do. And I dated one for 5 years. And I miss his mother's food, not his. And they're like, oh, I'll feed you. And I'm like, great, I'm not slicing my commission. I'm like, I'll take all the food you've got for sure, but I'm not paying for it. So I do try to include that. A marketing plan is always going to be a fixture in a listing presentation. So you might have a boilerplate marketing plan, and you should, right? But you're likely not going to spend the same amount of money and do the same amount of things for a $15 million listing as you are for a $500,000 condo, right? How does drone footage benefit a condo? It doesn't, right? You also want to put your personal flair and spin on this. Your marketing the property is really important. So there are a couple of things that I always do, or not always, I do every time that I am capable of doing, depending on the factors involved. Okay, so number one is, and this is a way to make myself shine and put a thought into the seller's mind, is I commit to showing the property at any time that the seller will allow a showing. And I'm able to do this because I have a team and because I make it a priority. And they'll be like, what are you talking about? I'll be like, oh, and this is, it kind of opens up the door. A lot of agents will not show a property if it's not convenient for them. A lot of agents have more than one client, myself included. And so if I have inspections at a property, it's really important I be there. Probably more important than a showing, depending on the showing. But I've got that covered because I have team agents and at least one or two people in the office that I consider really close friends, who I will cross-train on the property. I will bring to the photography appointment. You will meet all of them. They will learn how to show the property just as I do. I give explicit showing instructions to my team. They'll be here to ask you questions directly so that there's no misinformation or misunderstanding anything. And that always kind of puts my seller at ease. It's as much to the seller's benefit as to mine, because at this point, I don't want to do open houses. I want my team to do that, but I also want to maintain my relationship with my seller and for them to know that that it doesn't matter if it's me or one of my team agents sitting there open house, the same level of professionalism and service is going to be provided. And how do I extend this credibility that I have with them to my team is by making sure that in-person meeting happens and it's a discussion out in the open in front of that seller, right? That there's that interaction, that they see how we interact, they see that relationship. So if you're not running a team, I've said this many times, it is extremely important and completely vital to your success as an agent that you have at least 2 friends that are agents in this office that you trust explicitly, whose back you have, who will have your back and can cover you in those instances. Because even if you only have 2 things to do in one day, your clients will try to rearrange it so it has to happen at exactly the same time. And if not, there'll be an act of God. Okay? If you go on vacation, you will sell something. You will sell that house that you couldn't get a showing in for the last 2 months. it happens and you need that. All right, so,
And that's what others work here, like in case someone's open the door, we get them out.
no, man, I mean, unless you're so busy, you need someone to consistently show or it's out of area, and so that's gonna be your primary showing agent. No, this should be a friendship relationship. You got me, I got you.
And
Right?
that's what we used to do in the events, people used to like say, okay, page so open.
You know,
I don't
look,
know what's.
even my team agents, if I'm sending them there 5 times a week, I am paying them for their time because I try to be fair, right? That's a lot to ask. Whereas if I ask them once, I do it for them too, even though I'm team lead, I'll cover their showings, absolutely, whoever is available. On my team, it takes a village and we are all equals. Well, maybe I have veto power, but you know, that's how I run things on the team, but every team is run differently as an individual agent. When I didn't have a team, when I was starting out in my business, I also, the brokerage I started out at, I came in working for the owner of the entire company. And I think people were really kind of, even though I had friendships with them, were a little wary of me. I didn't get treated the same way. I got treated very politely by everyone, but also arm's length distance. And before I started my own business, I was doing my own deals, not necessarily behind their back, but while being paid by them, right? So I had to pay people to cover me for those things. So you may run into instances where you need to pay people, but that's not your ideal situation. Your ideal situation is that you have someone in place that will cover you and who you will cover, right? Yeah, anyone, if it's a one-off and they're your friend and they're asking for payment, you should pick your friends better. Okay, but how can you trust someone who's like, yeah, what are you gonna pay me?
I don't know what to expect, but I always used to like used to.
It depends.
As new agents there, they used to say, okay, can you open doors here? I mean.
Yeah, opening doors is
It
different.
wasn't by team, it was just like, I have a client, I have a lot of buyers, can you show this?
Yeah, well, that's different.
what I'm
That's
saying,
different.
it's like-
That's different. Yeah,
Not a friend showing the customer.
yeah, that's different. I mean, and I probably, again, have a different relationship than a lot of people in this office because I end up doing a lot of favors for people. So I feel pretty secure when I'm like, oh my gosh, this agent moved this showing around on me and now I'm double booked in the Valley and in South Bay. Can you cover me? I know it's a lot. But even then, like, even if it's a far distance, I exercise my discretion. Can I pay you like $50 for gas or whatever? Does it cost $50 in gas? No, but I'm asking for a fuckload of time. Super rude of me not to acknowledge that, right? Because let me tell you, if my friend came to me and asked me to review all their inspection reports and advise them on their inspection negotiation, I'd be like, dude, I am not your assistant, but if you want my advice on your draft of your inspection request, sure, right? There's a line about what you take and what you get. The other thing that I do in my marketing plan is if the property is located in a flat, single-family residence area, I will have door hangers inviting the neighbors to the first round of open houses. I usually do a Saturday and Sunday on my first open weekend.
That's instead of the market?
No, it's just a door hanger because obviously people will grab that, right? Even if they don't answer the door, even if they're not home. And it makes my sellers happy. It also makes my open houses kind of off the hook, right? Which helps me in a lot of ways. More exposure, but it helps me to meet other sellers. It also helps me if that property is not moving. I have massive numbers through the door and I still don't have an offer. It gives me a lot of leverage negotiating with the seller, kind of see the light of day on pricing if we're off on pricing, right? I always use statistics and exposure to convince sellers about price reductions. I'm like, look, we've tried your price. We have 1,000 views on Zillow, 200 something saves. I've shown it 24 times privately. I've had 4 open houses where I've had over 300 people through the door and I don't have an offer, which means it's pretty, but it's overpriced, right? That's what it means. If people are coming but not making an offer, it means it's overpriced. If people aren't coming, that could mean both. If it is a hillside area or condo, I'm not doing that because I can't access those buildings, but also the delivery, it's a hand delivery service I use. They don't do hillside areas, right? Also, that one's tough for me because I have to have the photo, they have to have the print collateral material, they have the marketing materials back, the photos. With quite a bit of time because I have to order them, they have to have that cut for the doorknob. I have to get them physically delivered to the delivery service, and then they have to have at least 24 hours to deliver those before my first open house. That is not always the case. Yes.
So on the door, you put like the information with the open house, the timing, or just information about the property?
I do one photo of the open house, minimal information, my contact info, and I say you're invited, you know, to my open house this Saturday.
So 5 sentences, basically.
Yeah. I have done fancier things, like when I have a great hot listing, you know, I have, and I don't put this on my marketing plan because it depends on a lot of factors. And I don't know what the timing and the factors are going to be a lot of times moving into my listing presentation, right? Going to my listing presentation, it might be months off, it might be weeks off. They might want it to go, the property to go on the market fast, but maybe I need a lot of repair work. How often have you heard a contractor finish their job on time?
Never.
Yeah, never. Right, so a lot of times I have no control.
Christen,
Yes.
sorry, one photo, price and line going, what else? On your door hanger?
I invite them, the date and time of the open house, a photo of it, basic statistic information like bedroom, bathroom, square footage, and price, and maybe like a one-line summary, like my headline, and my contact info. Sometimes I'll have other things, it just depends on the price point. You know, I've had craftsman homes where there's no way I can capture the details, so maybe I'll do a video on that home, even if the price point is low. So you have to look at every individual property and decide what is best to sell that property, if you're willing to pay for what that costs, if that makes sense for your business. Yeah. So I've done things, you'll see people do fancy things that have bigger budgets, like Taco Tuesday Brokers Open, the coffee cart Brokers Open, right? Stuff like that. Agents show up for free food. It is true, except for me. I'm at home. It's the day I take off. I don't tell my clients. That one day, and even then, not really. Just nobody calls me, so I get more done. So yeah, you might cater brokers open house. You might commit to caravan magazine ads. You should. Those are cheap. The color like showcase ad, I think is $39 or something. Yeah, you would probably want to commit to something like door knocking if it's a door knockable area. You know, and then there's the regular things that always go in there. So if you don't know what the regular things are for launching a listing and you're putting a listing presentation together, you want to put as much as you can together, but you probably want to talk to your mentor. If you're not in the mentorship program, a really experienced agent, ask them if they have a marketing plan. They may or may not be willing to share that with you. And if not, what are, you know, like, here's my list of the things I think should always happen in launching a listing and in the marketing plan and creating a listing presentation. Can you think of anything else I'm missing? Right? You'll see, yeah, it's catered a lot of times, depending upon the home and availability. I have some friends whose really cute kids are now getting too big to be all that cute, but I used to have them do a lemonade stand. So we post posters in the neighborhood for the lemonade stand. I have a complimentary lemonade stand. They have this big banner they would color, and I put them up in the front yard, close to the door, so I can keep an eye on them. And the brother was older, so I'm like, all right, if anyone freaks you out, you just rent in the house, you just leave everything there. I don't care. Who has a cell phone? Like, I'm on speed dial, right? Do you imagine my friends would murder me and got abducted from my open house? Hi, Brian. So yeah, I would do that. And then I would pay the kids and I would take them to In-N-Out, mostly so I can have In-N-Out. So all of this, I'm really yeah, so I would do things like that, right? But I can't commit to that every time because I don't know the situation. I don't know if the seller is going to agree to my price. So I might mention things like that, like I'll do some things like that after I kind of scope out the situation and I suss out, like if the sellers are realistic. So you'll have to decide what goes in your marketing plan. And I have a template for my lower end, like my traditional stuff, and I have a template for higher end listings and the things I'm going to do, just because I do enough of both at this point where it saves me time. And then I have a template with all of it on there, and I have asterisks next to the ones that I might alter. So yeah, in addition to your bio, your headshot, any references, referrals, and remember to make sure that you mention that these references, referrals have given you permission to share their contact information, right? And make sure you call those past clients or people and you let them know you're going for a listing appointment and with who, and give them their names. That way they're anticipating the phone call, because nothing sounds worse than who, what? Oh yeah, my real estate agent. That sounds pretty bad, right? It also gives you a reason to connect with your past clients, okay? And it reminds them that you're active and doing nice things. Just solidifies the relationship. What else? So the more you know about the people and the property, the better job you can do with your listing presentation. So at a minimum, you should be stalking the shit out of these clients on social media. If it's not a private driveway and you can get away with drive-bys, absolutely do that. Okay. Don't get caught. Nothing worse than being a caught stalking agent. Right, but if I do some preemptive stock work, I kind of know, like, are they a family? What do they have going on? If I've driven by the house, generally speaking, if the house is in massive disrepair on the outside, very likely that same condition is going to be reflected on the inside, right? So I have a better idea of what to expect. So how would that change what I put in my listing presentation? Well, I would generally have a 1-page on staging and maybe like cosmetic upgrade or repair work in my listing presentation. If I see something like that, I might include more. Or if it's really bad, I might include information or references, referrals to my developer clients who do flips. Okay, if it's really, really bad, like I'm concerned it's going to be what's called an uninhabitable property that's not lendable. Okay. So, and we'll go through this when we go into the KW command template. The listing presentation packages that they have in there are really, really big. What do you think the seller cares about most?
Your service?
Nah,
The price.
the price, yeah. Your service second. Okay. The price. So your CMA, I don't care even if you only have a couple of pounds, that's going to be a massive amount of pages, because it's really important that you have all of the photos, because nothing is going to help support your position on pricing like a visual aid. Okay. Yeah, specs, but a visual aid. And if you've taken my CMA classes, you know that I call the agents involved if I have time on every comp I have, both listing and buyer's agent, and I'll handwrite notes on the actual CMA next to the property. I love for the sellers to see the level of detail and work and energy that I put into gathering information. I think it sets me apart, but also it gives me information and insight that other agents likely will not have. Okay, so that just shows the seller like my work ethic right there, my my skill level, my attention to detail. So you'll have those notes on bold. But yeah, you may want to modify what you put into your listing presentation every time. It can be difficult to do without a lot of information. All right, so let's talk about, sorry, the KW command template, it's a ton of pages. I am not there to sell KW. I love this brokerage. I love our cap. I love the ability to market myself, but I am not here to sell KW. I am here to sell myself to the seller. They're not buying KW. They're buying me. I mean, I think it might be an issue if I worked for ABC, Main Street, mom and pop realty, right? That might be an issue for them. But as far as the brokerage, anytime anyone brings up brokerage stuff, they're like, but Compass has this. I'm like, any agent who tells you that their online marketing efforts individually or their brokerages are better than another is not telling you the truth. Once it is on the MLS, it is syndicated to everyone. Bottom line, it is out in the world in full force. And so, yes, could an agent who has, 20 million followers reach someone I can't? Yeah. You should be concerned about hiring an agent that has 20 million followers, though. You're not buying them, you're buying their third level assistant. Right? Yeah. And those of you in this class are probably on the newer side. So I want you to know, like, experience is not, and skill is not necessarily trumped by effort, right? So if you're in this program, you're in these classes, if you're in mentorship, anything that you need, as long as you ask the question, as long as you ask for the help, you're going to get it, okay? And remember, sell that. You're not inexperienced because you're paired with someone who has a lot of experience, yeah? But everything can be flipped. My very first listing appointment I ever went for, I was up against my old boss, actually, and she was a lovely agent, and she was very good, and she was a neighborhood specialist. And I thought everything went well, and the sellers called me. They were really honest, thankfully. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have had a shot at this. And they're like, Christen, we love you. We're just so sorry. We have to go with so-and-so. She's a neighborhood expert. She's got 10 other listings in the neighborhood here. And I was like, actually, she is. Everything you're saying is true. She is a lovely agent. In fact, I used to work for her. I know how amazing she is. And she taught me everything I know. I don't know if that's fully true, but I said, and she does do a lot of business in the neighborhood, but she's going to be splitting her attention and time between 11 listings. If you sign your listing with her, you will have 100% of me. All of my energy and focus will be on selling your home for the best price and terms, right? So every minus can also be flipped as a plus. Yes, I don't have tons of business in the area, but that enables me to focus on your sale alone, right? So just think about things. Anytime you see a weakness, and I'll say this about everything, I say this in my personal life too, every weakness is a strength and every strength is a weakness. So anytime you're feeling at all insecure about a listing appointment or your experience, or even talking to a seller, I want you to stop yourself and I want you to flip it and find why it's positive. Because if it's negative, it's positive. If it's positive, it's negative. It's all about how you present information and what perspective you look at things from. Okay. All right, so let's talk about conducting ourselves at the listing appointment, unless anyone has any more questions about what should go into a listing presentation. Like I said, we will look at the template before class is over. Okay, so I think a listing presentation starts the moment you start preparing your information. Do not wait until the last minute. Pulling a comparative market analysis can take 20 minutes, or it can take 2 days, or it can be impossible. Okay, so don't wait. Do not take appointments same day or next day thinking you're going to lose your shot. If you walk in unprepared, you're definitely going to lose your shot. Okay. Obviously, there will be the one-offs where you don't have a choice. But I'll preface those appointments with, obviously, I'm not going to have time to prepare for our appointment. So I'd love to meet with you. I'd love to learn about you and your home, what your needs are, what your goals are, why you want to make this move. I'd love to introduce myself to you so that you can ask me any questions you have for me. And so you can learn how I operate my business. But I'll need to see the home and I'll need to follow up with you with comparative market analysis, my pricing recommendation, those kinds of things.
How long does that generally take? Like, what's the minimum amount of time you would say you need to prepare for a listing presentation?
I mean, myself, probably 2 days, but as you get into higher and higher end, it becomes harder and harder to value. So if it's a high end, maybe 3 or 4, okay, right? But it depends on, like, this is my only job. This is what I do full time, right? I'm pretty familiar with the areas. It's very rare I have to wait on other people for help. I already have a full listing presentation. I already know for sure what it is I want to offer for my marketing plan. So if you're not really confident in those choices yet, if you're not really confident in the areas yet, if you don't have those materials all together, you're going to need longer. I mean, if you don't have your own listing presentation, you need that first and foremost before you can think about a listing appointment, right? You could maybe half-ass it with a CMA, but again, you're half-assing it, right? And as a new agent, as a not new agent, I get nervous when I meet with seller leads that I'm not familiar with, because I'm afforded the luxury of most of my clients being known to me or warm referrals where they're coming from someone who has convinced them I'm amazing already. So I'm received better. But when I have to go into straight unknown, like cold lead sellers, I am really nervous. So I need more time to prepare myself mentally. I have to feel really confident about my information because I know I'm feeling not so confident socially when I go into the situation, right? I'm very confident talking about what I know. I am not confident with new people whatsoever. I never have been. I'm super awkward by nature. So if it's not about the information, I don't always go over the best. So just as much time as you can. But you know, if it's a listing on a block where I've sold 2 other homes, I'm gonna feel a lot more comfortable. You know, if it's in your hood, the area, like an area you've been frequenting, obviously it's gonna be great, but I can guarantee you it's going to take you at least 2 weeks to get your final draft of the listing presentation together. So if you don't have one, you should start working on one immediately, especially if you're already working on buyer consult, because it's the same frame of mind, it's the same systems, it's a lot of the same materials. Okay, so I would work on them if I could at the same time. It will take you weeks to get together. And this is something you will often change throughout your career as you have more experience, more references, more referrals, more reviews, settling into something, finding your professional identity within the field. Yes, your mentor should be helping you to fine tune it, but I don't expect them to help you on anything you haven't put a rough draft together on. Yeah. And it shouldn't be just your mentor. You probably want to, obviously these are favors again, but you need to ask a few people in the office around, because different agents are going to have their own personal style. They're going to have different insight. And until you figure out yours, you probably want to hear more versus less as far in the way of ideas, right? You know, like yesterday when I was talking about BRE, the buyer's exclusive representation group, I don't ever use one, but there are some agents that do, right? And it works for them. I want you to talk to agents. I don't need necessarily to take technical advice, but as far as like theory, how it makes them feel, how it makes their clients feel, I want you to try it all until you find your own way. No two of us are the same. That's why there's enough room for all of us in this market. Okay. All right, so let's talk about listing preparation. So now that you have your listing presentation together, now that you have your CMA together, you've done all of the work, you've done your stalking, you know, as much as you can possibly know. The day before, pick out your outfit. Make sure, oh, my favorite one is the fucking hem is out on my dress or my pants that I want to wear. I'm like, always. I check the edges of everything now before a listing appointment. Having it clean, having it pressed, give it a good look over. Look at the weather. Also, you're going to be, unless it's a condo, traipsing through the house and likely the yard. Ladies, wear flat shoes. I've been stuck in the grass before with those heels. Yeah, you don't want, and also you don't know what condition their home is going to be in. When I was still an assistant, I remember being sent to someone's house for disclosures, and I just had the heebie-jeebies. I had like a skirt on. I did not like having my bare legs like out in that house. Yeah, it was not a good thing. And be conservative, but try to reflect your audience. So if you're stalking on social media, like, am I wearing the same thing to a $15 million listing appointment as I am to a 1 million? No, I am not rocking my jewels. No way. I am both of those people. I like my fancy things, but I grew up at the beach and I love flip-flops. So I'm not wearing flip-flops to an appointment. I never do that. But I don't want my clients to see me as someone different than them, right? I'm not going to change who I am. It's not like I'm going to stalk them and wear their college, you know, their alma mater like sweater or anything. I'm not doing that, right? It's like fatal attraction bullshit. I'm not doing that. I am who I am unapologetically, but right, I'm not wearing designer fancy things and sparkly shit to meet with normal people who've got kids running around. How does it make you feel when, you know, you answer you have friends over unexpectedly or have to do something and you look your worst and they look their absolute best, uncomfortable. You'll get over it, right? Well, hopefully. Hopefully you have enough self-confidence for that, but you don't want to make the situation like that. So you want to be clean, you want to be put together, you want to be conservative, but your main focus being there is to get the business. What are the 3 things I say you need to get anyone's business?
Know you, like you, trust you.
That's competent. They have to think you're competent, they have to like you, and they have to trust you. And I'm not talking a high degree of like, because trusting you and competence in a professional relationship is going to trump like, but they can't dislike you. Okay. Who hires most agents under the 5 million price range mark?
A wife.
That's right, the wife.
Woohoo!
I see some of you ladies around here and you look amazing. If I think that the wife is going to too, and she is not going to want you around her husband, cover that shit up. Okay, you are not here to find a husband or date, at least not until the escrow closes. I had a girlfriend who had a really raunchy joke about that. I'll never even repeat in public. But yeah, simple, clean, conservative. It's not about you. It's about the relationship with them and their home and their needs. Nobody cares until they know you care, right? I even go so far as to, like, I don't put on excessive, like I don't wear eyeliner or eyeshadow when I go for a listing appointment. I wear mascara because I think that opens up my eyes, but like, I'm not there to look amazing. I'm there to look put together and competent. I'm there to do a job, right? Similarly, I am not showing up in Converse or flip-flops or sweatpants unless, you know, it is a past client, they know me and they have to have me at a certain time, or they're like, I can only meet with you on Sunday at 5. And I'm like, okay, but I'm coming for my personal training session. So expect me, you know, I'm going to be dirty and super casual, right? But you cannot do that with a seller you don't know and have that relationship with. There isn't a need and a reason for it. Okay. And you guys, I know the agency loves their black t-shirts and jeans, but until you know that you have that client base, and until you know, like, that escrow, that potential listing doesn't matter that much to you, I want to see dress shoes. Okay, I want to see dress shoes. I want to see slacks or at least khakis. I want to see a dress shirt. I don't want to see a t-shirt and jeans or tennis shoes on a guy at a listing appointment. You're providing a professional service for one of the most important sales or acquisitions a person ever makes. Treat it like that. Give it the respect that that deserves, right? Would you meet the parents for the first time in, you know, in really disrespectfully casual clothing or too revealing clothing? I mean, I guess it depends on the parents, but very likely not, unless the parents are like, you know,
Hippies.
Vegas. So treat it that way. Treat it professionally and always err on the side of being conservative and simple when you don't know who you're meeting with, right? Can black slacks and a white shirt offend anyone? No. So when in doubt, what do we wear? If it's summer, maybe khaki pants. I don't know, like tan colored pants. I don't mind a little bit of color, but you should not be competing with the presentation of your performance. You should not be competing with the needs, wants, and feelings of the client. You should not be competing with the home. Okay. All right, so it starts the day before. You make sure everything's perfect. Like I said, I still get very nervous to have to meet with someone I don't know. So I already know this. I'm a night owl, even though if I wake up at 5 a.m., which I generally wake up between 5 and 6 a.m., I will still stay up until 1 a.m. So how do I fix that? If I have to, I pop a Benadryl with some tea at like 8 p.m. So I'm not, you know, like sleepy hangover in the morning from Benadryl. I will move my workout or add a second workout closer to bedtime to physically exhaust myself to get myself into bed. I will set a bunch of super annoying Alexa reminders telling me to get the fuck in bed, Kristen, so you don't fuck up your work tomorrow. Title it whatever you want, whatever gets you there, right? I have animals, so I make sure that I really schedule my time, and this is one of the times where I will ignore my team agents. I will ignore you guys, because if I let people interject in my morning and get me off schedule, then I am going to be rushed I'm going to be out of sorts for my listing appointment that I'm already nervous about, right? I may work out that morning if I want to. Depending on how nervous I feel, I may skip coffee that morning or have decaf or half of the coffee, right? You think I'm joking? How many of you have been on a listing appointment? Was your heart racing? Not Errol. He's just stoic over. So was your heart racing? Yeah, even for a moment, right? And guess what? That will never completely stop. It will stop somewhat. It will get a lot better. But if the day it completely stops, means you don't care, right? So we care about this, right? So just set yourself up for success. So if you have to skip the coffee, skip the coffee. If you need to add a morning workout, wake up earlier, add that morning workout. Whatever it is you need to do to be focused, you have given yourself quite a bit of extra time to get to your appointment so that you're on time. You do not want to walk up to the door early, but if you're not sitting in your car for a minimum of 7 minutes before approaching that door, you've left late. Because I don't know about you, but yesterday I had 3 stoplights out because of the wind, which added 17 minutes to my journey across town, right? That stuff can happen. And even if there's a valid reason for it, what do you think a seller thinks when you're late for a listing appointment? You're going to be late for a showing. You're not giving them priority. This is not important to you as it is to them. Okay. So I make sure I'm there early. Parking can be rough, right? Yeah, but you sit in your car until 2 minutes before your appointment, because being too early is just probably even more annoying than being late. I don't know about you, but I'm like, ugh, my dad always shows up 20 minutes late early. And I'm like, still like not dressed, trying to put some makeup on while I have food going on the stove, right? I'm just like, oh, so I started inviting him 30 minutes after I wanted him to show up. I started working with that, right? But you have to anticipate those kinds of things. Also, a lot of people will teach you to send a pre-listing appointment, pre-listing presentation. I will not do that because I want to be the one to present all of the information the seller is seeing. I don't want any margin for them to misinterpret what they're looking at. I certainly don't want them to look at numbers before I'm there to explain things in person. Also, I have pretty well supported reasons for most things I think and do in my business. If I don't have the opportunity to explain those things, I think that information that sets me apart can be misinterpreted in a way that hurts me. And I never call the day before to confirm my appointment. I don't even call always, I text most of the time. I call if I have to. I call once I'm on my way, even if I'm not actually on my way. Why is that? Any idea?
Not giving them a chance.
I'm not giving them a chance to cancel or reschedule. I'm making them obligated to holding the appointment we have. Hey, looking forward to meeting you, or I can't wait to see you. You know, I'm on my way. I should be there right on time. Right? Because even if they're not ready to list then, I am working on the relationship. Business is secondary to relationship. If you have the relationship, unless you violate likability, trust, being trustworthy, or being competent, the business is yours. Okay? So I do confirm, but I don't confirm until pretty much right before. Until they're being a dick to try to reschedule or cancel.
And then what do you say?
What's that?
And then what do you say if they try to reschedule?
Oh, I mean, I guess it depends on what they say. I mean, I couldn't answer that. That'd be a case by case basis. But most people won't do that are even semi-serious sellers or people at least I want to work with, because they know I'm on my way. If they're like, oh my gosh, completely forgot, we're not even home, that's different. I'll be like, oh, no problem. What time do you think you will be home? Maybe I can run some errands in your area. Which I genuinely will do, because when do I ever have free time? And see if you can get the appointment that way, right? If you can keep an appointment. Or, oh, super space, the house is so messy, and I'm like, oh, I'm a professional, I can look past that, I wouldn't worry about that. But you know, if they insist, they insist. Because I'm not there to apply pressure, I'm just there not to make it easy. Like my whole motivation behind this is not to make it easy to cancel or reschedule. I'm not going to push on them to have an appointment they don't want to have. That's not my style. I don't think that's the right tone for starting any relationship. If you were in class yesterday, you saw me mention, like, you know, real estate is a lot like dating. You know, you don't ask for vulnerability and commitment up front. You let someone see who you are, right? They have to decide that you are worth that commitment. You are worth that value. Yeah, right? You're providing the value for the commitment. Yes.
How do you go about, okay, so you have you see a property, it has their phone number, is either leased or purchased by owner, right? So how do you convert them to want to take that?
That's a
number?
Justin Jacobson question for business. I'm not about lead gen here, I'm about the technical part.
No, you said listing presentation.
Yeah, but right now I'm talking, like, talked about what goes into a listing presentation. I'm talking about how to conduct yourself at one. If you want to talk about how to get a listing presentation, that's Justin Jacobson's arena. I don't teach business development. You guys don't want to learn business development from me. I'm by referral only. Good luck with that. It's going to take you 15 fucking years to get to a place where you have consistent income and clientele. No. So yeah, Justin Jacobson, that's his whole arena, is marketing, business development, how to get leads, how to get clients to commit, handling objections. I think he taught objection handling today, didn't he? Yeah.
This morning.
Look at the calendar.
No, I did, I seen it, it was earlier today, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
10.
So he teaches how to get clients. I teach how to get the business once you have the end. Got it?
He also mentioned,
Close the business once you have the contract. I'll teach you some client psychology along the way, but generally people who are good at what I'm good at are not good at what Justin's good at, vice versa, which is why we have the duty split. You do not want my advice on how to lead gen. Be like, I don't know. Let's see. So where was I?
Can I ask, just out of curiosity, what you did in your first few years for Legion?
I already worked in real estate. I worked for other people. Like my first few clients were big sales, were listings, and they were clients that were my former employers. Before that, I was an escrow assistant and escrow officer. So I already knew the language. My path into the sales agent and was kind of an unorthodox one, and I had built in clientele.
Okay, and then they just became a referral.
Yeah, but I'll tell you beyond that, that wasn't the only route. I sat every single possible open house I could for any listing agent that would let me. And so I worked with a lot of buyer clients I picked up there. But that played to my strengths. That's why I'm telling you guys to try everything. Everyone will have a different method of doing things. I'm not good with people, but I'm great with the technical part of my job. So at open houses, when buyers ask me a question, that was my time to shine. I wasn't always good at getting them to talk to me, but if I could get them to talk to me at all and get them to a place where they ask me a question, my answer usually like blew other agents' answers away. And so the people who liked that, they knew they were my client, and that were pretty much my client from that moment on, of getting the opportunity for my talents and part of, you know, where I'm strongest in my field, having that be visible, you know, to the client or to the potential client. So that's how I built my business. And believe me, it was not all glamorous. I sat fucking these open houses with like one people through just to keep myself in motion, ingratiate myself with those listing agents so that they wouldn't give me their real open house when they had a real open house that needed sitting. So I did a lot. You do a lot of free work as an agent your entire career, but especially in the beginning, okay? Because you really need people who like you, but access to people, and for success, you need agents to like you just as much. You're not just building relationships with clients, you need to build relationships with other agents in the industry. You know, there are definitely a few agents I had bad escrows with, especially when I was younger and I hadn't learned how to fake not be myself yet, who probably think I'm a punk rat, right? Because I knew when they were wrong, I called them out and I wasn't nice about it. I would never do that now. Thankfully, most of those people are now retired. I'm not joking, legit, they're retired, so good, not many of those people around. To think that about. All right, so where were we as far as showing up and that day? Okay, so you're going, so the the confirmation phone call, I try to leave it till the last minute. So you sit in your car until the 2 minutes before your appointment time. You go up to the door, you knock, okay? You text or call, you should call. Calling's more professional, guys. And leave voicemails when people don't answer. But if no one's answering the door, call, you know. And be prepared. If you don't like cats or dogs, or you have an allergy, as an agent, I suggest that you get some Zyrtec and keep it in your car or in your purse. If you don't like children, well, you better figure out how to seem like you do. Because after the sales price of their home and what you're going to do to sell it, people care about their animals and their children in that instance in meeting you most. Most people probably care about their children, animals in their house, right? But in your capacity, it's about the house, but their children and animals are second, just second. So you like them, you smile, even if that dog is scratching up your legs and getting hair all over you. Even if you can't hear yourself think because it's bark, 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 like when you walk into my house. And one of the very first things I do, male or female, is I try to control where my listing presentation is going to take place, because it's not going to take place first thing when I walk in the door. Okay. How do I do that? I ask if I can set my things down, but I kind of walk toward where I'd like to set them down, which is where I'd like to provide my presentation. I do not want to be sitting in the living room where most people assume they're going to sit down for meetings with people in their home. I want to sit down at a table where I can easily share information. Okay. Someplace I can flip around if I need to, you know, show someone something a little more carefully, where it's very easy for all of us to sit in the same place and not have to reach around. I also bring enough copies of everyone that's a decision maker and that I'm meeting with. So if I have a husband and wife and myself, I'm bringing 3 copies of everything. I also bring my computer, which is also a tablet, and it's fully charged. My phone is fully charged, but it's off when I go into the listing appointment, or it's on silent. So this is fully charged, and I have a copy of my CMA and listing presentation on here, because if I am not disputing, but if we are not on the same page as far as pricing, and I need to lean into my comps and I need the visual aids so that I can ask them, well, you're telling me you'd like a price like this. Let me show you what sold on, you know, like the next block over, or your block 4 months ago at this price point, or at this price per square foot. And I'll zoom in and I'll be like, you know, how do you think that your home compares to that? Maybe there are some updates that we can make to get it closer to this level of, you know, remodel, to where we can get you higher in that price. But I don't want it to be my words. I need them to see, or else I have no shot at getting them to be reasonable. They have to decide for themselves. And sometimes they're not going to do it that day. But if I don't show them, there's no chance they're going to do it. Okay. You know, like one of my first big sales, my first big listings, the guy wanted a price of like that was the same as brand new construction half a block away. And I was like, let me show you this. You know what? And he still said no. And I said, you know what? It's open tomorrow and it's listed with the agents in my brokerage. Let me just call them now and see if we can go over there and take a look. I was able to get us in then because of agents that I worked with that I had a good relationship with. And so I walked him through. I didn't even say anything. I wasn't like in the house, like, how does your house compare to this one? I was like, let's just go take a look. So you can decide if they're of the same, like, you know, remodel level and quality. I don't even think I used the word quality. I showed him. I made it so he could not ignore what I was showing him. So as much as you can visually combat any misconception they have about pricing, because most sellers do, like 90+% of sellers are going to think that their home is worth more than it is. That is because they're emotionally invested in their home, right? That's because to them, their home has been an important thing. Just like, you know, someone has feelings about their child. They have a lot of investment. This is part of their everyday life. This is something that will be an important factor in their life forever moving forward. Right? So that visual aid is important. So I set my stuff down where I want to give my presentation. And then next, I go into tour mode. I do not want to sit down. I do not want to talk about things yet, because remember, I haven't been there. I still haven't seen the home. So I still don't know what pricing recommendation I'm going to give. I might have a large range. I could be completely wrong in that. Not so often, but I could. I need to get that range down smaller, and I want to skew it towards lower, middle, or high end, depending upon what I see and potential issues I see. So I'm going, and also I need to get to know these clients, these sellers really well, because they're going to tell me how to speak to them. They're going to tell me what's important. And whether or not they affect a real estate transaction, I do need to honor what's important to them. And so I'm going to work that into the things that I say, the way that I position the materials I'm presenting, right? I'm presenting the same information. It is not what I'm presenting, it is how I'm presenting it to them. That depends on how they're going to receive it. So I need to get to know them in a short period of time. I ask them about their plans if I don't already know. I ask them what made them select this home, what made them purchase it, what they've changed, what they like about it, what they like least, how they feel about the neighborhood. Like, oh, did you guys make this addition when your third child was born? I ask the question. I have them show me everything. I have them show me their house, right? I'll ask questions too, and I could lay some groundwork. Oh, this looks like this was, added on, or your property record says it's a 2-bedroom. You're telling me it's a 3-bedroom, and I see this 3rd bedroom doesn't have a closet. Is it permitted? Right? I need to know these things because it will affect what I tell them when we sit down and talk about pricing and what the process is going to look like. After I go through that, I have a much better idea of what pricing recommendation I'm going to give. I know better how to speak to the sellers and what's important to them, what their values are. I know what their plans are. And so if they're like, oh, I'd rather try on the higher end of the pricing range you're giving me, but they're telling me I have to be out in this many days because I have to be here for work, and I'm moving into the new home and I can't carry both mortgages, or I can't carry rent and mortgage. I'm going to touch on that. I understand your need for time, yet you're telling me you want to try on the higher end of your price point, right? If time is non-negotiable for you, it is recommended that you go in on the lower price point. Not even that. I would recommend going in under market value, hoping to receive multiple offers quickly, drum up competition, stronger terms, and be able to enforce our terms and our close date on time, right? So this is all going to affect what I say and how I say it and what I recommend. Saw a hand? Yes.
So for pricing, how do you go about pricing? Like finding pricing for that?
That CMA class. I have a whole class on that. It's not something I could cover in one class. Yeah.
I know I've received.
Have you taken comparative market analysis class?
Yeah,
You
so I
should.
didn't know the price
So-
like for square footage for that.
Pricing per square foot's a method I use if I'm forced to.
That's what I'm saying.
That's my secondary way of doing it, if I'm forced to. But you'll find a whole hour-and-a-half long class, maybe plus, in my CMA class. Go to YouTube, watch it. It's not always super easy. Sometimes I do have to use sales price per square foot. But do you think that in my CMA class, for those of you that were there, I was talking about Kendrick Canyon and how the homes on the east side of the street have lots that are all uphill and completely unusable, whereas the ones on the west side are all flat. I use sales price per square foot, and I didn't know that. What does it matter if I have 10,000 square foot unusable lot on the east side and I have completely usable on the west? Are those sales price per square foot? Or can I use those? I cannot. They're not the same. Not at all. In any case, that's why there's a whole class on that, David. All right, so now I've had the tour. I've looked at potential issues. I've narrowed down my price. I've learned more about the sellers. I've learned about their plans. Now I go into presentation mode. And here's a really big thing. I don't go through every page of the listing presentation. First, I go through the CMA, because if the sellers are so off with me on pricing, they're not interested. There's nothing that I'm going to tell them about what I do to sell the home in my presentation that's going to work for them. Nothing. So why would I go through my presentation first? They don't care. That's a secondary thought. That's only gonna make a difference if they really love me or really hate me. Right? So I go through the CMA. And if we're having pricing issues and, it's something that I think, my opinion versus their opinion, it's not that far off. I will transition to the listing presentation, talking about staging and improvements we can do. Like I'll use that as an aid, right? I'll go into my marketing plan, the things that I can do to try to protect their price, the things that are supporting my discussion on pricing with them. If it's something I feel like we can work out, I think that that's generally understood, like we might be a little bit off, but I think we can do a few things to kind of tweak that. Are you open to this or that? Let's talk about this, that. You kind of know if you're on the same page. Like I've gone into a listing appointment where I think the house is worth 4 million and he's like, I want 7. And I won't take a penny less than 7. Do you think I'm gonna go over my listing presentation with him? No. Okay, so
No.
I've already wasted enough of my time. I'm not gonna give him any more. Right? I'm not. I have other ones where, I'm like, look, here's typically the strategy I use is to underprice. I have a few great things I can say also. I've never not sold one of my listings, but I also done listings that I think are severely overpriced. Even if I think they're overpriced, I'll generally contractually bind the seller to reducing at the 30-day mark if we don't have an accepted offer. Because it's a business decision for me, just like it is for them. So that, that's one of the things I can say. I'm super honest about my evaluations. If I don't feel really confident in it, I share that. There are no really good comps. That is a thing. A lot of times, especially in the higher end, especially when you get into the Hills homes, there are no super valid comps. So I will talk about ranges and what is similar about comps versus others. And I'll explain why I might have a larger or smaller price range. I support all of my decisions and my opinions, and I educate them along the way. We don't necessarily have to agree. I think the first step is, do they accept the way I think, the way I present information, the way I'm supporting what I'm saying? Do they accept what I'm saying is truthful? Are they reasonable about the parameters I'm saying could work for them? Are they, approving of the areas I'm like, I can't answer these questions in this instance because of this or that, right? Well, is this a potential relationship, right? It's like going on the 3rd date. You may not even go on a 2nd date. It's like going on the 3rd date. I'm not going on the 3rd date unless I feel like I'm vibing with this person a little bit, right? So listing presentation is sort of like the 3rd date. If you actually go into the listing presentation versus just the CMA. Okay, so I go into the CMA at that, or sorry, the listing presentation at that point, and I will, at a minimum, if I feel like we can work this out, or if they're completely on board, or if we have a contractual agreement to try it one way and then another way, I will go into, for sure, the marketing plan. I will for sure point out my references and referrals. I will point out like a little information about myself and my team. I'll just point it out. I'm not reading it to them. The last thing you want to do is go through and flip page by page and read them. You need to focus on the personal relationship, and you need to know this material so well that you don't need to flip the page to know what it is, applies to these clients to be helpful for them to hear. And you're not going through every page. I'm sorry. Nobody's going to sit there with you for an hour and flip through the pages of your listing presentation. It's just not going to happen. Pricing, process, what's special about you. That's it. So no matter what happens, maybe the sellers are interviewing other agents. I'll ask them, when their next appointments are, when a good time to follow up with them is. 100% you need to follow up with them exactly when you say you're going to. If you cannot get back to these people on the day that you tell them you're going to follow up with them, why would they list their home with you ever? If you can't follow up with them to get their business, are you going to follow up with the buyers and agents necessary to sell their home?
How do you follow on? You're not signing it then and there, saying follow up?
Most of the time, I'm not signing a listing agreement during my listing presentation. Most of the time, a husband and wife or a couple want to talk about it privately before they commit. I am not a high pressure agent. I'm really confident in the services that I have to provide. Honestly, if they don't want to sign my listing presentation or my listing agreement, most of the time the feeling's mutual. You know, most people that are not signing with me, it's because of pricing. I have no interest in signing a listing agreement with them.
Well, they have to, they want to interview others.
If they want to interview others, by all means. And if they tell me who, unless it's illegal, it's unethical, license losing offense to badmouth your fellow agents. But if I have something truthful and like positive to say, I will say that. I never trash talk my fellow agents to clients. Don't do that. I mean, it just makes you look bad. And I ask them when they'll be making their decision. When's your last, meeting? Even if they don't know, would it be okay if I followed up with you in, say, a week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, right? Based upon your discussion with them. And then I immediately calendar that as soon as I get into my car and I make sure I follow up with that. I also immediately, and you might want to preemptively do this for your listing appointments, I write a thank you card that I pop in the mail. Send it. Short, sweet. They don't need presents. Don't go overkill. They don't want flowers from you. I'm just thanking them for their time and I'm showing them why I'm a standout agent because of the little things that I do. Attention to detail. Yes.
I'd like to know, how do you, let me see. If your seller has like a family member and wants to do a dual agency with you, like, what do you
Blood
do?
is thicker than green, I guess, sometimes. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of times they'll want you to co-list.
Right.
I mean, are you so busy that 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing? That's a personal choice for you to make in your business. Also, on the same point as signing a listing agreement that day, one of the reasons I don't is I don't know when the house is going to be ready for market. At a bare minimum, even if the house was photo ready, I don't have my photography appointment, right? There are a lot of things I don't know yet.
It's secure, you secure it yourself.
What are you talking about?
Don't like,
So what if I don't sign it right away? If they want to work with me, they're going to sign it. Even if they want to sign it that day, I go back to my office and I type up the listing agreement at that point in time, or I can type it up at their house if they're insistent that they want to sign it. But I don't know what date the listing is going to start, is what I'm saying. I also don't know if they're going to want to sell after we get information that we need to have in order to determine, do we need to make repairs? How much does this cost? Is this a big problem? Right? So I always bring a blank copy of the listing agreement. Why? I like to leave it with them so they can see what it looks like. They can review it and they can ask me any questions about the terms there. But no, I've never asked anyone to sign a listing agreement while I'm there. But you may want to if they're, like if they're hot to trot, go for it. Seal the deal. Hold on. I do, however, ask for the business. If it's not that crazy guy who wants 2 million more than his house is worth, I do ask for the business. And I'll say, well, how are you feeling? Would you like to get started working together? Right? I do ask for the business. I don't ask them to sign on the dotted line right there because there may still be information they want from you. Almost always there are going to be things that a seller asks of you for follow-up. Okay, almost always, including referrals, even if they are kind of hot to trot. They'll want, oh yeah, okay, yeah, we are interested in staging. What's the next step with that? We get some estimates. Okay, who do you like to use? You know what, when I get back to my office, I'll email you 3 of my favorite stagers, that kind of thing. The follow-up work is very important. Okay, I would say like the follow-up work is the most important. Even if you're not the most interesting guy in the world, like it's funny. I haven't dated an American, not to bash American man, but I haven't gone out with an American man in a long time. So you're like, oh yeah, I'll call you. I'll let you know. I'll text you. Fuck that. Call me. When I ask me out, offer to pick me up. Tell me what day and time. It's in my calendar. And if you cancel on me that day, my time is very valuable. I don't have enough of it for myself. So if you're going to fuck off with it, fuck you. You want their business? Make them feel like the only girl in the world. Yes.
So if you're not having them sign the listing agreement right there on the spot, and they ask about how much you're going to charge to list the property, do you go into that?
I will, absolutely. I charge the standard 5%, which doesn't all go to me. It's split evenly between your agent and the other agent involved. If they want to haggle, depends on how hard they're haggling, but you can learn more about that in client objection class with Justin Jacobson.
And then just to follow up on that, if they don't ask, do you volunteer the information?
I don't usually go into it at that point, even if, I'm a 5% girl. You have to argue with me to get me to go less, and I'm not asking for more ever. I just heard, and I say it just like that, like, oh, I do the standard 5%.
If they asking about dual agency in the future, if you're going to find a buyer without agent.
Well, first off, it's not in your best interest for any agent to do that. So I advise you be wary of any agent who's trying to find their own buyer instead of recommending that you put your property on the public market on the MLS. That sets me apart right there. I'm not there to make money. I'm there to make you money. By default, I will make money because I've made you the most amount of money. I don't like providing dual representation. If there is some compelling reason and you really want me to, I will if I'm forced to, but I will tell you right now, you are losing what's special about my service to you. I'm a super strategic agent, and if I'm giving you advice and I'm representing the other side, I'm reduced to a messenger because I'm giving them the exact counter advice. And no matter what an agent tells you, if you think that you're saving money by reducing the commission in the case of dual representation, that agent probably they're doing something kind of unethical to begin with. So you need to be concerned that they're more concerned about their commission than they are about your purchase price. I'm here to get you the most money and also to protect your purchase price. So I really hate dual representation, and it's the truth. I can't stand it. I'm not good at my job. I am just like, yeah, I'm just like sitting there like, he said this, she said that. I feel like I'm in grade school. It is not fun. The buyer and seller almost never agree, and I'm not a neutral party. I cannot help them resolve it. I am not a neutral party at that point for anyone, nor do they see me as one. I don't want to be in that position. But what I will tell them is if I end up doing that, I would be willing to do 4.5%. I would be willing to do 4.5%, maybe even 4, it depends. But I promise you, seller, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid that situation, so don't count on it. Right, so real quick, unless anyone has any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and pull up KW command and show you the template. All right, you're going to go to the design section. You're going to say create design. I always choose print. You can still email or download the print version. And
Can you share the screen, please?
oh, sorry, yes. Good.
Thank you.
Over on the left-hand side, they changed the format. I'm assuming it's under listings. Listing presentation, yes. All right, so you're gonna have several types to choose from. And if you were in my class yesterday for buyer consults, I want you to be wary. You do not know who is authoring this presentation. We have differences from Northern to Southern California, let alone regionally, like city to city. I want you to look at the concept here. I want you to check every word. I want you to check with your mentor, other agents. I want you to read every word. I have found spelling and grammatical errors in this, okay? So not only can you not be certain that the terminology, the process, the content is not correct, but you can't even be certain that the grammar and spelling is correct. Okay. And I'm sorry, if you are a listing agent trying to present a listing presentation you haven't read in its entirety, you do not deserve to sell real estate.
Can you repeat that one more time?
If you are a listing agent, if you're an agent presenting a listing presentation that you haven't read and approved every single word of, you have no business selling real estate. None. If you don't read every single word of every single document and every single one of your escrows, at least for the first few years, you have no business selling real estate. You are representing someone in one of their most important sales or purchases ever in their entire life. How dare you? You get paid a lot of money and that's your job. So if you can't even read it to get the shot at getting a paycheck, I'm sorry, those paychecks are going to be few and far between. But just how dare you? This is why our business, our profession has a bad name. You need to care. How do you expect a seller to work with you when you don't care as much as they do? You should care even more. Because that seller is your avenue to future money, future business, easier life. But even if you don't truly care, your goals should be the same as the sellers because ultimately they are. Even if you don't have the same motivations, them being happy and achieving their goals is directly related to you being happy and achieving your professional goals. Okay. So, all right, so let's go into one of these. So you're going to want to brand it, you're going to change it, but you're also going to want to take about 80% of the content out. A lot of the content is directly promoting Keller Williams. Your client doesn't care. You're there to sell yourself. Ladies, do you care what person at the nail salon does your nails? You don't? I do. I don't care about the nail salon, I care about the girl who does my nails. Same thing. All right, let's see, pages over here. So there's 29 pages. There really shouldn't be more than about 15 in your listing presentation, unless you're adding a lot of things like past marketing. You feel like it's something that's going to need to have heavy repair, staging, that kind of thing. Okay, so let's see. All right, so client name, photo of the home. Do you often have a photo of the home that's pretty? No. So you might have the client name there, but I would recommend having your own title page. A table of contents. Do you need a table of contents for your listing presentation? No, because we're not going through this page by page. You're mostly leaving a listing presentation behind to remind your sellers about how amazing you are. There's more information about the basic specs of the home. That should be in your CMA. Do you need to add it back into your listing presentation? No, that's going to be in your CMA. This is called neighborhood snapshot. It goes through Kelly. I strongly discourage you from using this because it doesn't follow the MLS areas. So if you use this snapshot, it's going to contradict what you have in your CMA when you're talking about your statistics. Why? Why will it differ from my statistics? Because I'm using different criteria, right? So the worst thing you can do is go into a listing appointment and contradict your own information. Doesn't make the seller very confident in the information you have to present. Okay, then it has a CMA in here. I like to keep them separate. Why? I'm not going into my listing presentation unless the review of the CMA goes well. You know, it also has stuff about like promotional assets. You know, obviously stuff like this can all be condensed into your marketing plan. You want to keep this fewer pages. Like your media plan, like your media stuff is going to be part of your marketing. And I don't like the term media. I like to keep things very specific to what it is I'm going to do for the client. And that's going to be different depending on the price point and the type of property. Strategic promotion, again, part of the marketing plan. So the things that are several pages can oftentimes be condensed into one page. Also, I want there to be an outline. I want most of what we're talking about to be my elaboration upon the points, because what it means for one client, even though it says the same thing in the listing presentation, might not be what it means for the other, right? When I say, paid advertisements in the Broker Caravan magazine. What I mean for that $1 million listing is not gonna be the same as the, full page spread that I'm doing for the $10 million listing. Because I'm just not running the same business model. I can't spend $2,000 on an advertisement for every, lower end home that I sell, haha, lower end or $1 million houses, right? I laugh at myself every time I hear like, my low end sales, $1 million. As if, I know. Watch me, in 3 years, I won't live in the state, I'll be gone. I'm never gonna be able to buy the house that I want to live in here. I know, you know what, I just don't wanna work that much harder, so probably not. Real experience, real expertise, it has specs here. Until these are really great specs, you don't necessarily wanna use them. So just look at them, exercise your judgment. And are we still doing lunch? Are you out of here?
Yeah.
Okay. Exercise your judgment and look at everything. Decide if it's relevant to the subject property. Decide if it's right for you. Decide if you need it in your listing presentation. You're there to sell yourself. You need to go over certain things, but not every single thing all the time. And you're certainly not there to have 4 pages about the same topic. Let's see. Ask agents if that you are impressed by the way they conduct business. And I don't mean like, oh, they sell a lot of properties. No, like you've actually talked to them. You like the way that they think and they operate. It's gonna save you a lot of time and a lot of mistake making. Ask them if they'd be willing to let you see their listing presentation. Don't be surprised if they say no. A lot of agents are really protective of that, and you'll see once you put all the work it takes for you to make your very first one. But even if they say no, ask them if they'll take a look at yours and help you, like give you ideas or let you know what they think. Give you their feedback, right? Right. All right, does anyone have any questions for me about listing presentation? Yeah. Anyone at home? All right, well, I hope that you guys have a fantastic weekend. I will be in Vegas. Please do not call me. Please do not text me. Email me and then remind me on Monday that you email me.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you. Have a safe trip.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Once you do,
Fun in Vegas.
everyone, you're welcome. And sign in if you did not sign in your mentorship. Thanks, guys.